Scammers are stealing billions of dollars from America's seniors, and they're ramping up their efforts. With calls, texts, or clicks, they can steal a senior's entire life savings. But we have the power to stop these criminals. AARP is fighting for bipartisan, common-sense solutions to protect older Americans' hard-earned money from scammers. Join us today. Visit action.aarp.org/fraud pledge. Paid for by AARP.
Welcome to the program. No Victocrats allowed because we've got a country to save. So let's get her teed up!
You want to play rock? Say hello to my little friend.
What the hell's going on out here?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
888-971-7243. 888-971-SAGE. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. In the second hour, we're going to talk to Texas Representative Brandon Gill about the gerrymander wars. There is an explanation for why VP J.D. Vance was removed from the hotel ballroom before President Trump. Iran is pretty simple. Wants to drag out negotiations until the midterms and until public opinion pressures Trump into cutting a bad deal. It's not going to work. Hakeem Jeffries blasts Caroline Leavitt for urging civility, claims Republicans are the ones who lack civility. Former advisor to Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden falsely claims guns are, quote, the number one killer of our children, close quote. Not true. Democrat candidate for Senate in Maine accuses Israel of committing a genocide. Where have we heard that before? A Democrat congresswoman and EPA chief Lee Zeldin get into a knockdown drag-out over climate change. It was very, very entertaining. Bill Maher explains to his liberal guest, who says his 9-year-old daughter has trans friends. This is why Kamala Harris lost the election. All of this and more, 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE. Dissent, of course, is welcome. As to why Vice President Vance was escorted from the ballroom first, ABC reporter said this, and it was reported properly. Quote, I was right there. I saw everything. The reason J.D. Vance left earlier through a different door from Trump is that he was alone. On the other side of the table were the president, the first lady, the press secretary, who was very pregnant. The Secret Service immediately created a security perimeter to get them out. Trump, who doesn't let himself get carried away easily, writes the ABC reporter, demanded explanations. He wanted to know what was happening, ordered that the First Lady evacuation be prioritized, asked that the journalists be removed, and decided to leave on his own 2 feet, but making sure to get the press secretary out first. He didn't want to duck down. He fell briefly after a shove from the agents and left the room on foot, close quote. That's why Vance left first. As far as the would-be assassin, the Secret Service officer allegedly shot by the suspect was the only agent to return fire, according to an official affidavit filed in federal court yesterday. The affidavit says Allen, referring to the alleged assassin, approached and ran through the magnetometer holding a long gun. As he did so, U.S. Secret Service personnel assigned to the checkpoint heard a loud gunshot. U.S. Secret Service officer V.G., V.G., was shot once in the chest. Officer V.G. was wearing a ballistic vest at the time. Officer V.G. threw his service weapon and fired multiple times at Allen, who fell to the ground and suffered minor injuries but was not shot. End of quote. Now, it's really interesting. The Democrats are now claiming, what hateful rhetoric? Remember what Jamie Raskin said? We played it yesterday. What about your heated rhetoric? Heated rhetoric? Me? Heated rhetoric? What are you saying? So Caroline Leavitt reminded them of what they said. Number 17.
It's not just the media. It is the entire Democrat Party has made their pitch to voters across the country that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to democracy, that he is a fascist, and that they compare him to Hitler. I mean, these are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time. Governor Josh Shapiro said heads need to roll within the administration. Senator Alex Padilla said people are, quote, dying because of fear and terror caused by the Trump administration. Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Trump is making the country look like a, quote, fascist state. Senator Adam Schiff saying President Trump using a dictator playbook. Senator Ed Markey calling President Trump a dictator, saying that this administration's actions are authoritarianism on steroids. Governor J.B. Pritzker, never before in my life have I called for mass protest disruptions. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. You have Rep. Presley saying, we'll see you in the streets. Rep. Monica McIver, a Democrat representative on Capitol Hill, we will not take this from Donald Trump. He thinks he's a dictator. We are at war. These are Democrat elected officials calling for war against the President of the United States and his supporters. I could go on and on, but again, when you have people in positions of power that are saying things like this every single day for years, you are inspiring violence by people who are already mentally ill. And that's what we've seen against this president for far too long.
Hakeem Jeffries was angry about her assertion that the Democrats are inciting violence with their hateful rhetoric. Number 13.
Mr. Leader, I know you said you stand by your comments. At the same time, you have been the subject of threats as well. So with respect to this comment about maximum warfare, even if it's about redistricting, why not tone down the language here in this moment?
I think that what's interesting to me, as you pointed out, is that the so-called White House press secretary, who's a disgrace, she's a stone-cold liar, had the nerve to stand up there and read talking points.
Let me interject. Notice he called her a so-called White House press secretary. Why would you say that? Please continue.
The so-called White House press secretary, who's a disgrace, she's a stone-cold liar, had the nerve to stand up there and read talking points being critical of statements all taken out of context that Democrats have made, and didn't have a word to say about anything that MAGA extremists have said or done, including providing aid and comfort to violent insurrectionists here at this Capitol on January 6th who brutally beat police officers. The president then pardoned those violent rioters, many of whom have gone back into communities across the country to reoffend. And as you pointed out, one of whom threatened to kill me. He said, kill the terrorist. Where did that language come from? What Republicans use that language? Why did that pardon MAGA extremists, violent insurrectionists, choose to use the language of terrorism directed at me when he threatened to kill me at an event? And so how can we take them seriously when they raise these partisan attacks and completely ignore the fact that a lot of folks, including Governor Shapiro, his home was attacked by an arsonist when he and his kids and wife were there. And this so-called White House press secretary wants to lecture America and lecture us about civility. Get lost. Clean up your own house before you have anything to say to us about the language that we use.
Did anybody ever refer to Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton as Nazis? Any Republican refer to any of them as Hitler, as fascists? This is a whole different level, as John Fetterman attempted to explain to his fellow party members. Number 54.
No, that's gross, and that I absolutely condemn that. Absolutely. Do not compare anyone to Nazis. Don't use that kind of rhetoric. You know, that could incite violence, and now I strongly reject that and condemn that kind of language in the strongest terms. Members of ICE are not Nazis. I don't compare anyone to Gestapo and those things. This is one of the reasons why I think we should stand down in what's happening in Minneapolis. We all have to reduce the temperature. We have to turn it down. And using that kinds of rhetoric, again, I can't ever support that. And I have a basic rule in politics. Don't compare anyone to Nazis. I don't care. You just don't do that. These are not Nazis. So for me.
I think Democrat Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker did not get the memo, number 41.
Because some of your critics may point to what you said in the State of the State last year when you compared the Trump administration to the rise of Nazis. What would you say to that?
Well, Manu, remember what I was talking about was the fact that a constitutional republic was torn apart in 53 days in Germany in the 1930s, and that we need to watch out for that in this country. That is what I was talking about. And we've seen it, by the way, that speech was given in February of 25. I think over the last year, much of what I said has been proven to be true, that the institutions of this democracy are being attacked by the Republicans and by Donald Trump.
Much of what I've said has proven to be true. Every time the man coughs up a hairball, he gets sued. Has he defied any court order at all? Has he refused to abide by any court decision at all? 888-971-SAGE. Just getting started. Parents, the biggest question in education today is how artificial intelligence is shaping the way your student learns. Artificial intelligence is changing education faster than most schools are willing to admit, and many families are rightly concerned. At Patrick Henry College, the goal isn't to outsource thinking to machines. It's to train students to think for themselves. PHC emphasizes a Christian liberal arts education that develops reasoning, writing, speaking, and discernment skills no algorithm can replace. Students learn to engage technology wisely, understanding its capabilities, but also its danger and limitations, rather than becoming dependent on it. In a world increasingly shaped by AI, Patrick Henry College prepares students to lead with wisdom, conviction, and moral clarity. If you want a college that prepares your child to lead in an AI-driven world without losing his or her faith and values, I encourage you to learn more about Patrick Henry College. Visit phc.edu/elder. That's phc.edu/elder. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. What incendiary language? Number 50.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Number 51.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
That, of course, is California Congresswoman Maxine Waters. This is Democrat Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff, number 15.
See, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, they offer a small, closed, menacing vision of America defined by fear and scarcity and exclusion. They imitate the blood and soil rhetoric of history's worst regimes.
And here is the same senator talking about Trump being in need of being constrained, number 16.
It's going to be a judgment on this administration's record and whether an out-of-control president who's engaged in brazen and overt corruption and the abuse of power needs to be constrained. We need to restore checks and balances urgently.
Jake Tapper said that at the dinner, Kari Lake approached the CNN table and made a disparaging remark about one of their correspondents, number 34.
Kari Lake, the election denier who's currently in charge of Voice of America, she approached a CNN table after the shooting and blamed journalists for the attempted attack and personally insulted one of our correspondents as a, quote, midget. She then went outside and trailed me for about a block. I was trying to ignore her. She was saying that I was responsible for what happened. CNN's responsible for what happened. And that unhinged rant by someone who, frankly, obviously needs help is now being matched with social media posts and more from the White House trying to use this horrific tragedy to demonize any criticism as calls for violence. And the president has been making literal calls for violence since 2015. I'm not even going to go into them. You're familiar with them, but literal calls for violence. Now,
I've made this point before. Notice he referred to her as an election denier. Has anybody referred to Hillary Clinton as an election denier, even though for 4 years, during Trump 1.0, she called the election stolen, called him illegitimate? Did anybody ever call her an election denier? What about Kamala Harris, who agreed with Charlemagne the God when he said the president was illegitimate? Why didn't he call her an election denier? Dick Durbin from Illinois. The Democrats are saying the war is illegal. So the logical step, therefore, is that the troops should be refusing to abide by an illegal order to deploy to Iran, right? Number 37?
A lot of Democrats are saying the war in Iran is illegal. Do you think the troops are following illegal orders from Trump in Iran in terms of the strikes?
I don't want to hold them responsible for the ultimate decision to go to war. But in the conduct of war, of course, they'd be held to standards of doing misleading.
Are there illegal orders you think they should refuse if this goes on?
Well, I don't know. There might be.
And here again is Jake Tapper after the 2020 election, saying that our long national nightmare, in the minds of many people, is over, referring to President Trump. Number 35.
It is the end of a tumultuous presidency, a time of some accomplishments, no question, a time where many Americans throughout the country in shuttered steel towns and in rural America, they felt for the first time, they felt heard, which is important, but it is also, Wolf, it has also been a time of extreme divisions. Many of the divisions caused and exacerbated by President Trump himself. It's been a time of several significant and utterly avoidable failures, most tragically, of course, the unwillingness to respect facts and science and do everything that can be done to save lives during a pandemic. It has been a time where truth and fact were treated with disdain. It is a time of cruelty where official inhumanity, such as child separation, became the official shameful policy of the United States. But now the Trump presidency is coming to an end. To an end. With so many squandered opportunities and ruined potential, but also an era of just plain meanness. It must be said, to paraphrase President Ford, for tens of millions of our fellow Americans, their long national nightmare is over. Dana?
And let's talk about Joe Biden.
Yes.
Dan is in Los Angeles. Dan, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I want to rebut what you were saying about Democrats' comments being so incomparable to what's being said on the right, especially by Donald Trump, who said they're rapists, they're murderers, they're coming across.
No, he didn't say that. Dan, he didn't say all of them are. He said some of them are.
No,
and he also said, and some of them are good people. Why do you leave that out?
Well, yeah.
Why do you leave that out?
Larry,
why do you leave out? I want you to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. You guys leave that part out. You take it out of context. It's not fair. It's not fair. Not fair. Not fair. Will you concede? Will you concede you left that part out?
Will you shut up?
Oh, Dan, please. It's my show.
Sir,
it's my show. How about a little civility, my friend?
Yes. Oh no, not to you. You're not deserving of civility in this case because Trump said they are rapists, they are murderers,
and he said, and some of them, I assume, are good people. Why do you leave that out?
Wonderful. How wonderful! Because that's a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket. Larry, you say, what about everything? Why don't they call Hillary an election denier? Why don't they call Biden a Nazi? Because they don't do things like that. Trump is the one with the ICE people.
Okay, Dan. Give me the number one thing that makes Donald Trump a Nazi.
That's not. What kind of question is that? The number one thing that makes him a Nazi?
You said the reason they don't call Biden a Nazi, he doesn't do things like that. So I'm assuming Trump does things like Nazis. What thing?
Well, he has as if they're stormtroopers, masked and unidentified people in ICE, taking people
oh
off
my
the
goodness!
streets without identification.
Even the California Supreme Court struck down that law that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats passed, mandating that ICE agents cannot wear masks. Even the Supreme Court struck that down. That's all you got?
Well,
your number one reason for calling President Trump a Nazi is because it's okay for ICE agents to wear masks? That's all you got?
Larry, this is your show. I'm not going to talk to you anymore because you just...
Oh, okay. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, Dan. You couldn't handle the heat. You can't handle the heat. Don't come into the kitchen. Don't come in the kitchen. You can't handle the heat, Dan.
Larry, you didn't hurt my feelings, Larry. If you would just shut up and have a conversation. That's what you need, is a conversation. You can't have a conversation.
Do you talk to your probation officer that way? Dan, do you talk to your probation officer that way?
I don't know. When did you stop beating your wife, Larry?
Oh. All right, Dan. I enjoyed this. This was Slice. Call anytime.
Yes, it was.
Call anytime.
Yes, you bet.
Yeah. The number one reason President Trump's a Nazi is because ICE agents wear masks. That's it?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, then what else? What else do you have, Dan? Back it up. Back it up. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel, coming to you from the Relief Factor studio. Don't forget your Relief Factor, 800-4RELIEF, 800 the number 4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Ann is in Los Angeles. Ann, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you for calling.
Larry, you're one classy guy for putting up with that Dan. I mean, he caused my blood pressure to sky high. Where was he during Obama's first two administration when we weren't allowed to say radical Islamist? When Obama was very comfortable with ISIS marching the Coptic Christians on the shores and then decapitating them. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, Trump has an issue with delivery, but it's Obama's first two terms that got us Trump's first term, and it was Obama's third term under the name of Biden that got us Trump's second term. Obama's policies, he was charming, he was nice, his policies were anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Jew. Trump's policy are for America and for the West, and I don't know what else to say except some of these people have zero education. Islam is not a religion of peace, as Obama said. They've been killing Christians and Jews, and in between the 5 prayers a day, plenty of Muslims. I need to calm down, and I can't thank you enough for you being there for us, because there's so much more to say. And again, you are one classy man to put up with such a ignorant, limited, unschooled, and why is it, Larry, the so-called educated people know so little about the history of the world?
Well, Ann, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. Alan is in Harrison, Kentucky. Alan, you're in the Larry Elder Show.
Hello?
Hello, Alan. You're on. Turn your radio down.
Hello. How you doing?
Yeah, it's fine.
I watch you every night and everything, and I just wanted to commend you on the freak that was on the phone earlier and everything. And this is ridiculous how they trying to say everything is fake and all that stuff. The assassination attempt was fake and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. One of the I forget what show she's on. She also Mia Farrow. Mia Farrow suggested that the assassination was staged. So a couple of people have said that. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. Lorraine is in St. Paul. Lorraine, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Larry. You kicked some butt on this Dano. I am so proud of you that you speak not just the truth, but you enlighten us. I feel like I'm going back to college when I learn stuff from you rather than the mainstream media. And I just want to thank you on that part. And I am praying a lot for our country. And especially Omar and her shenanigans in Minnesota. So I love you, bud.
I love you too. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. Now, this is interesting. This is a woman who's running for House in Pennsylvania, and she wants ICE abolished. She's asked a real simple question. After you abolish ICE, who handles immigration? Who handles deportations? And here's what happens. Number 39.
You also said you're running to abolish ICE. Mm-hmm. This is something that we've heard other Democrats and activists talk about.
Yeah.
From an immigration enforcement perspective,
yes.
Who do you think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws?
It's a good question. And you can pause because I just want to think about it for a minute. Go ahead.
We need to continue, though.
Okay. Who do I think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws? Not the executive branch, so not the president. So it belongs with Congress. It belongs with Congress.
Congress is a legislative branch. The executive branch is a branch that enforces the laws. So you want to abolish ICE. All right, well then who should enforce immigration laws? Well, not the executive. I mean, play it again.
You also said you're running to abolish ICE. Mm-hmm. This is something that we've heard other Democrats and activists talk about.
Yeah.
From an immigration enforcement perspective,
yes.
Who do you think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws?
It's a good question.
For 250 years, Americans have believed in one powerful idea, that we were meant to live free. Free to work hard, free to move, free to enjoy life without being held back. But if everyday aches and pains are slowing you down, it might be time to declare your independence from pain. I've told you about my brother Kirk having difficulty going up and down the stairs in the morning until he followed my advice, started taking Relief Factor. Relief Factor is 100% drug-free, research-based formula designed to help your body fight inflammation, one of the root causes of pain. It's not a quick fix or a temporary mask. It works from the inside out, at the source. Relief Factor was created so people could get back to living life on their terms, walking, working, exercising, and enjoying the moments that matter. This year, as we celebrate 250 years of American independence, take a stand for your own freedom. Try Relief Factor today for $19.95. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF.
There's not a man today who could take me away from my God.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel coming to you from the Relief Factor studios. Don't forget your Relief Factor, 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Here is exactly what candidate Trump said. Number 55.
The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. Thank you. It's true. And these are the best and the finest. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they tell us what we're getting. And it only makes common sense. It only makes common sense. They're sending us not the right people. It's coming from more than Mexico. It's coming from all over South and Latin America, and it's coming probably from the Middle East. But we don't know, because we have no protection, and we have no competence. We don't know what's happening. And it's got to stop. And it's got to stop fast.
John Paul is in Chicago. John Paul, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Oh, hi there, Larry.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Yeah, when are the Republican senators and congressmen are going to start telling the truth.
Can you give me some specifics, please?
Yeah, every time I watch TV, I hear these Republicans, they're saying how wonderful they're doing. And the only thing I could think of is that they passed that one big, beautiful bill, which was tremendous. But it wasn't them, it was Trump. Why should I go out and vote and get off the couch to vote for a Republican congressman or senator when they did absolutely only one thing? Can you just tell me maybe a list or something that they did do other than the big, beautiful bill, which was tremendous, and that's all Trump? That wasn't them. That was Trump.
What do you mean?
What have they done other than that?
What do you mean?
What else have they passed in Congress?
They've supported the president. That's what they've done.
Okay, number one.
They've prevented the Democrats from passing a War Resolutions Act to stop what he's doing in Iran.
Okay, that's two. But what else did they? How about Comey and Brennan? Why don't they tell the truth and say we didn't do nothing about them?
Well, Comey has just now been indicted. Got indicted today.
Yeah, he has. Mm-hmm. But look how long. I mean, they've been
well. You know, John Paul, if you're unhappy with how the Republicans have been behaving, I think
what they've been doing.
Okay, what is it that they should do that they have not done yet, in your opinion?
Well, I think they should solidify the over 1,000 things that Donald Trump wanted to see the country receive. How many of those things have they actually solidified?
That's a little vague. Give me the number one thing you want Republicans to do that they're not doing.
Well, let's see. What did Donald Trump want? Some of the things I can't even think of it. He's done so many.
Okay, all right, John Paul. I'm gonna move on because I'm not quite sure what you're upset about. They're backing this man. They've supported what he's done on immigration. They supported what he's done on foreign policy. They supported what he's done, as you pointed out, on taxes. I'm not quite sure what more they could do. What gets me, though, is when people talk about Republicans lying. My goodness. What was the biggest legislative achievement of the Barack Obama administration? Obamacare. How did he pass it? If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Wasn't true. It's going to bend the cost curve down. Not true. In fact, this promise about you can keep your doctor was considered to be the lie of the year. That was his biggest legislative achievement, and it was based on a big, fat lie. And then Biden. Biden's DHS secretary testifies under oath that the borders are closed. 15 million people came into that closed border. And then he said, well, it's as closed as it can be, secure as it can be, given the lack of comprehensive immigration reform. Trump comes in, no comprehensive immigration reform, borders are closed in 30 days. How many times were we told during the Biden administration that inflation is transitory? Got up to 9%. Average 5% for the last 4 years. So if you're disappointed with what Republicans are doing, all I urge you to do is imagine what would have happened if Kamala Harris had been elected. If they hadn't thrown Joe Biden out of the window and he'd been reelected, what would have happened? Before the war started, drill baby drill, gas prices 5-year low, mortgage rates 3-year low, S&P and NASDAQ yesterday hit new highs, and nearly half the people in the country have investments in the stock market, either directly or indirectly through their own pension, so it improves everybody's lot when the stock market goes up. The tariffs did not have the disastrous effect that people thought it was going to have. Donald Trump negotiated the release of the hostages and their remains. And I mentioned this yesterday. Presidents George W. Bush and President Barack Obama complained that NATO wasn't paying 2% of their GDP as they promised to do. Trump got them to pay 5% with the exception of Spain. And Republicans were very upset about us spending all this money on the Ukrainian war. We're not spending anything now because our allies promised to reimburse us for everything going forward. These are huge achievements. He took out the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, and now the Iranian leadership has been decimated. Their economy is choking. And my suspicion is they can't go much longer. took out Maduro, Venezuela, and now Venezuela has a leadership that's far more responsible. I mean, this man has done miracles in just a year and a half. Well, he didn't lower prices on day one. Well, okay. He didn't cure cancer either. Joe Biden promised to do that. Every president promised to cure cancer. I don't know why they keep promising that, but everybody does. Now, our founders believed that freedom wasn't just a word, it was a way of life. The freedom to move forward, the freedom to pursue what matters most, the freedom to live fully. But pain is a way of taking those freedoms away. That's why Relief Factor exists. I've told you about my golfing buddy Tom. Out there almost every day, scratch golfer, says he couldn't pull that off without taking Relief Factor every day. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free, research-based supplement designed to help support a healthy inflammatory response, addressing pain at its source, not just covering it up. Over 1 million Americans have found relief and reclaimed parts of life they thought were behind them. This year, as we celebrate 250 years of freedom, ask yourself a simple question. Are you living with the freedom you deserve? Relief Factor gives you the opportunity to live pain-free and get back to the life you love. Try Relief Factor today for just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Your 3-week quick start is ready for you. Visit ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 800-4-RELIEF. Next hour, I'm going to talk to Texas Congressman Brandon Gill about something that a dictator might do. Remember when Obama said he didn't have the power to give legal status to illegal aliens and then did it anyway? Just saying. 888-971-SAGE. I'm Larry Elder.
Take my advice, I'm only trying to school you.
888-971-SAGE. 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. We have 2 more hours to go. So much to get to. We're going to talk to Texas Representative Brandon Gill about the gerrymander wars, get his take on the attempted assassination of the president. Iran wants to drag out negotiations until the midterms, until public opinion pressures Trump into striking a bad deal. It won't work. Former advisor to Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden falsely claimed guns are, quote, the number one killer of our children, close quote. Not true. Democrat candidate for Senate in Maine accuses Israel of committing genocide. Also not true. Democrat Congresswoman and EPA Chief Lee Zeldin get into a knockdown drag-out over climate change. Bill Maher explains to his liberal guest, who says his 9-year-old daughter has trans friends, this is the kind of thing that caused Kamala Harris to lose the elections, said Bill Maher. 888-971-SAGE is our number. Eddie is in Agora Hills. Eddie, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Larry. Thank you for putting me on. I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am for you and your show. The scholarship that you provide is absolutely amazing. I get so many facts and so much information that it's astounding. I don't know how you do it. I try to memorize a lot of the stuff that you say because in case I would have the opportunity to confront someone on the left who don't listen anyway. But I just wanted to thank you. I don't know how you do it, but thank you. I listen to rebroadcasts a lot of the time to try to take better notes so I have more information. And thank you.
Well, Eddie, thank you so much. I'm just doing a job an illegal alien won't do. By the way, Jimmy Kimmel has doubled down on the joke he made about calling Melania Trump an expectant widow. He says, I was talking about Donald Trump's age, and they know it. Really? Is that what you thought when you heard that joke? Oh, he's talking about Donald Trump's age. I didn't feel that way. I thought he was saying that somehow, some way, Donald Trump no longer is going to be president because something unfortunate might happen to him. But now he says that apparently the ABC executives are standing by him. Reportedly, the ABC executives are not going to fire him. But the CEO of ABC, president of ABC, and the CEO of Disney, the parent company, has not said one word about Jimmy Kimmel. So I'm confident he's going to survive this. Whoopi Goldberg says nothing's being done to take gun rights away following the assassination attempt. So now it's about gun control. And I really want to comment about the congresswoman who claims that the number one killer of children is guns. You call teenagers who are gangbangers children? Depending upon the state, some of them could be tried as adults. When you think of children, do you think about an 18-year-old member of the Crips? MS-13? Is that what you think of? All this and more. I'm Larry Elder. So let's get her teed up!
You want to play rock? Say hello to my little friend! What the hell's going on out here? Ooh, that's a bingo!
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Next segment, we're going to talk to Congressman Brandon Gill. But first, did Ilhan Omar really say World War XI, number 19?
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
I think she did. I think she did say World War XI. Ouch. The former FBI head, James Comey, has been indicted for posting on social media the shells that formed 8647. Number 53.
Good afternoon. Today, a grand jury sitting in the Eastern District of North Carolina returned an indictment against James Comey on 2 counts. The first count is that on or about May 15th of last year, he knowingly and willfully making a threat to take the life of and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States. Count 2, same day, May 15th, 2025, that the defendant, James Comey, knowingly and willfully transmitting in interstate commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill the President of the United States. Both of these counts carry a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years.
Simone Sanders was a top aide to a Bernie Sanders campaign for president. Then she joined the Biden administration. Here's what she said about the number one killer of our children, number 24.
Number one killer of children right now in this country is gun violence. So our children don't have the protection of a ballroom on White House grounds. Our children don't have Secret Service agents or U.S. Marshals or private security protecting them. Our children are exposed every single day, and so we want to talk about bulletproof vests, we talking about bulletproof ballrooms, we talking about everything but gun safety, it feels like.
And notice the assertion she made, no pushback. Now, John Lott has written about this for years. For those under the age of 18, vehicle deaths outnumber firearm deaths. Okay, in 2023, they were basically tied. 2,580 for vehicles, 2,581 for firearms. But the firearm numbers include justifiable homicides, where civilians or the police shot young offenders who posed deadly threats. If you exclude those justifiable killings, the count drops by more than 400, from 2,581 to 2,166. Now let's examine those deaths. 72% of them involve minors who are 15, 16, 17. 16 and 17-year-olds make up 57% of that number. They are overwhelmingly gang members. And if you banned guns, these gang members who acquired them unlawfully would still acquire them unlawfully. If you define children, what most people consider to be children, let's just say under the age of 15, motor vehicle deaths far exceed firearm deaths. From 2019 to 2023, motor vehicle deaths were 64% to 153% higher than firearm deaths, excluding justified homicides. So it's not even close. But this is a talking point you hear over and over and over again. Now, this main candidate for the Senate, Democrat, Graham Plattner, once again accuses Israel of engaging in genocide. Number 36.
How would you describe the U.S. relationship with Israel?
I mean, at this point, I would just say shameful. You know, this is what has happened in Gaza it's the moral question of our time. And we failed it miserably. We continue to fail. You know, there's a genocide that has been committed in Gaza.
Okay, all right.
And
okay. Genocide committed in Gaza. Can we again go back to the exchange Coleman Hughes had with Joe Rogan, who felt the same way? Number 44.
When you're killing 30,000 innocent civilians in response to something that killed 1,200 innocent civilians, and you're continuing to bomb an area into oblivion, which is what it looks like when you're looking at Gaza. There's many people that have made the argument that that is at least the steps of genocide or a form of genocide. You're destroying thousands and thousands of people's homes and killing them.
So when you say 30,000 civilians, it's not 30,000 civilians that have been killed, though.
How many thousands have been killed?
So according to Gaza Health Ministry, which it is run by Hamas, the number they have is 32,000, but they don't distinguish between Hamas and civilians.
How many members of Hamas are there?
40,000, something like that. I don't think the number is known, but it's tens of thousands. So Hamas says 32,000 people have been killed, civilians and soldiers. Israel says 13,000 soldiers have been killed by Israel. So if you let's not doubt either number. They could both be inflated. But if both of those numbers are accurate, which they may or may not be, that would be 13,000 soldiers killed, 19,000 civilians killed, which for urban combat in the Middle East is a very normal ratio.
I see what you're saying if you wanted to look at it cold and objectively. Yeah.
But I hope it doesn't come across cold because...
But it's mostly women and children that are dying, that are dying because they're in a place where these terrorists are, right? I mean, it's not...
Because the terrorists on purpose embed themselves with the civilian population, which is a war crime.
Right, which is a strategy that they have clearly employed when you see them. And when the IDF went into that hospital and found Hamas...
Just recently?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's real. It's not just a conspiracy theory. We know that that's real.
And I know Kurt would probably say I'm doing the tragedy of war thing, but it's actually a legitimate point in every single war, even the just ones. There are war crimes by berserk soldiers, by the good guys.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's genocide, and that doesn't mean it's not a just war. And I think the fundamental difference between Israel and Hamas is Israeli society, however imperfectly, is not going to celebrate the monsters on their own side when they're really found to be monsters. They're not gonna hand out candies to people who kill Palestinian civilians like Hamas does. In reverse. And so my feeling about it is still that, any nation that suffered what Israel did on October 7th, everyone in the country would be saying, you have to go get these guys. You have to eliminate this organization that did this. And if they're 80% finished with that job, it would make no sense at this point to stop before you've cut out the last 20% of the cancer or before you've put out the last 20% of the fire, right? Even with all of the absolute suffering that is real on the Palestinian side. So that's how I feel about it. And I think it's very, very distinct from genocide, because genocide is when you're trying to maximize civilian casualties. I think Israel, however imperfectly, is doing the opposite. They're trying to minimize civilian casualties.
That's interesting.
Hamas is the one that turns these civilian locations into military operation sites.
Yeah,
which is a war crime. This is the way I would put it succinctly. If you ask the question, what is unique about this war? What is different about this war than all other wars? It's not the civilian death toll. The ratio of combatants to civilians is, I think it's better than the American armies was when we got ISIS out of Mosul. That was like 10,000 civilians dead to kill 4,000 ISIS. This is 19,000 civilians dead to kill 13,000. What's unique about this war, unlike every other war that I could think of, is you have an army in Hamas that has perfected the art of embedding itself, enmeshing itself with civilians so that you cannot hit them without hitting the people around them. Other armies have done this, but none have perfected it to the extent that Hamas has. No army that I know of in military history has had 15 years to build 300 miles of tunnel underneath a city that they don't use to shelter the civilians, but they use to shelter themselves so that they can operate right under a kindergarten, right under a mosque. So this is a challenge no army has faced. And so that's what makes this war different. And yes, I agree with all of the absolute tragedy and suffering of the Palestinian people, but it's what creates that is the way Hamas fights.
And Israel is accused of genocide. Just sick. Brandon Guild up next, 888-971-SAGE. I'm Larry Elder. Triple 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. And please welcome back Texas Representative for the 26th Congressional District, Congressman Brandon Gill. Congressman,
Larry, thanks for having me.
As always, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate it. Let's start with what happened on Saturday. Where were you when you found out what happened, and what's your reaction, and how do you feel about the Democrats saying, well, all we're doing with our incendiary language is matching what Trump and the Republicans have been doing?
Well, I was not at the event. I was at a separate event and found out soon after it happened. And you know, this is one of those things that it is kind of shocking, even though you know that the Democrats have, through their rhetoric, kind of set the stage for political violence. It's still shocking whenever you see this. I mean, the reality is we've spent the last year and a half with the Democrat Party not only labeling the president and every Republican member of Congress as Nazis, but going out and very explicitly saying things like 8647. You have Democrat comedians who are basically justifying political violence against the president or against conservatives, who are making jokes about Melania being an expectant widow. I mean, this is really dark, sick, demonic language that we hear every single day, and they've normalized it on their side of the aisle. And eventually what happens is you get some crazy lunatic like we saw just a few days ago who tries to act on that, who takes it seriously. So what we need is for the Democrats to recognize that this is a problem. And by the way, political violence is a problem from the left. This is not a both sides issue. Mm-hmm. This is an issue that predominantly comes from the left. And we need them to wake up to it.
The only Democrat, either in the House or the Senate, to my knowledge, that has said this is John Fetterman. He's acknowledged that it's coming from the left, acknowledged that the incendiary language likening President Trump to a Nazi or a fascist is unacceptable. He's about the only one I can think of.
Oh, that's right. You certainly don't hear anybody in the House of Representatives saying that. And yet every day we hear this kind of language in committee hearings and bill markups and their floor speeches, talking about how the president is an existential threat to the very foundations of our republic. And that's a problem. And I think they recognize what they're doing. But, you know, frankly, I think that some of the Democrats on the other side of the aisle themselves seem to actually believe that the president is a dictator himself and kind of deserves what he gets. And I think that's sickening.
Where does the shutdown, the partial shutdown now stand? As you know, members of Secret Service aren't even being paid.
Yep. Yeah, we're working through that right now. We've got a dual-track approach to funding the entirety of the Department of Homeland Security. As you know, Democrats have held up that funding because they didn't want to give any money whatsoever to ICE or Customs and Border Patrol. That's something we're not going to stand for. So what we're going to do is we're going to fund ICE and CBP as part of reconciliation, which is a process that we can do solely with Republican votes, including in the Senate. And then at the same time, we're going to be funding the rest of the Department of Homeland Security through the normal appropriations process. We've got a few open questions right now that we're trying to work through. For instance, what this is going to look like in 3 years. If we have to, if at any point there needs to be a CR, we want to make sure that we're in a position so that all of the Department of Homeland Security can be funded. So that's what we're working through right now. But we're going to make sure that this gets funded pretty quickly.
Congressman, speaking of dictators, I'm old enough to remember when Barack Obama said, "I don't have the power to grant legal status to illegal aliens." Then proceeded to do that with the temporary protected status for Haitians. The Supreme Court is now considering that case. Where do you stand on this?
I think that it is a grotesque policy. I mean, temporary protective status was originally designed to give temporary relief for Haitians who came into the United States fleeing in 2010 a massive earthquake. It's since been re-upped and redesignated to the point where it has metastasized into a de facto amnesty. I don't think that's something that anybody in the United States should support, especially not on our side of the aisle. And the reality is that the TPS bill that the House of Representatives passed a couple of weeks ago is going to die in the Senate, and that's exactly what should happen to it.
You mentioned 8647 just a moment ago. As you know, the former FBI director, James Comey, has now been indicted a second time, this time because of what he posted on social media, that shell that said 8647. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think that was a grotesque thing to post, and he knew exactly what he was doing with that. I think that you get, whenever you have Democrat politicians who are promoting this, I think he's doing that because he wanted some kind of online social media attention, and he didn't really care what the consequences were. Well, it turns out posting death threats against the president has serious consequences, and now he's dealing with them, and he should. He was a part of this environment that the left has created that has made life incredibly unsafe for the president and for Republicans more broadly.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk quickly, if we can, Congressman, about the gerrymander wars. Here in California, as you know, Proposition 50 got passed. It's going to reduce the number of Republican House members by about 4 or 5. Yours apparently has been affirmed by the Texas Supreme Court. It looks like the Virginia Supreme Court has thrown out the Virginia redistricting map. So where are we now? Who's winning? Who's losing?
Well, the next step will be to see Florida execute on the maps that they have sort of proposed over the last few days that are expected to gain Republicans an additional 4 seats. So you've got a little bit of give and take throughout the country, whether it's California, Texas, Virginia, Florida, or some other states where Republicans are expected to gain 1 or 2 seats here and there. I think once all the dust settles and all of this is said and done, Republicans will probably pick up 2 to 4 seats, hopefully more, but I think that's sort of the base case expectation. But the big factor here is going to be to see if Florida can execute on the maps that they proposed.
Congressman, I find it a little maddening when I hear people say, well, Trump started it in Texas. Eric Holder in 2017 set up a committee to go around the country to advise states on how they can change their maps to benefit Democrats. Trump does it, makes a recommendation in Texas, and all of a sudden, quote, Trump started it, close quote.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, and Democrats know that as well. Let me give you just one example comparing the Texas maps to the California maps. Democrats in Texas are better represented with the new maps than Republicans were represented with the old maps. In other words, California was already gerrymandered to an extreme degree long before any of this began. So to suggest that this is something that Republicans started, I think is asinine. Democrats have been doing this for a decade or so.
45 seconds left, Congressman. Midterms. How do you feel? Are Republicans going to retain the majority in the House? Are you concerned about the Senate?
Well, I'm fighting for Republicans to maintain a majority in the House. I think we're going to be just fine in the Senate. It's one of those things, though, that you never take for granted. The left is going to throw a ton of money into these midterm elections. They're going to be doing everything they can to get their base excited and motivated, and we need to be doing the same. We need everybody to get out to the polls. We've got a lot of swing districts in the House. that we need to be protecting, and we've got a lot of good candidates that we need to make sure come back next Congress.
Congressman, as always, thank you very much for taking the time. God bless.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Reflections of the way life used to be. Reflections of the love you took from me.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Jimmy Kimmel is defending his joke about Melania Trump being an expectant widow. I'll have that for you in just a second. But first, I got this letter from Carol. Hello, Larry. I'm a fan who listens on WNRI in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, where you have a great number of additional fans. While listening to last night's program, a woman caller that seemed to be known to you by her beginning friendly comment said something that concerns me deeply. She referred to President Trump as a cracker, and it struck a weird chord in my brain. This morning, I looked up her comment cracker online and found out just what I thought. The term is a racial slur directed at white people, and is based on some theories that refers to the cracking of the whip by slave foremen in the times of slavery. It is not a comment that means he, Donald Trump, is funny or cracks me up. The caller seemed to pass this one by you. So I'm hoping that you might review the exchange you had when she called and clarify that comment she made, that you might have missed her attention. It sounded to me like you read something in the Shooter's Manifesto. Calling anyone a cracker is not funny, like she seemed to be in her tone of voice by saying at the start of her call. Thank you, Mr. Eldon. Hopefully you will listen more closely when this caller tries to slip one of her nasty Trump derangement comments by you. You're talking about Antoinette, Sunset Beach, and she said Trump is a crack-up. Not a cracker, a crack-up, as in Trump is funny. Anyway, no harm, no foul. Here's Jimmy Kimmel, number 20.
A call to fire me from our First Lady, Melania Trump, saying I should be fired because of a joke I made, again, 5 nights ago. It was a pretend roast. I said, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at her, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow, which obviously was a joke about their age difference and the look of joy we see on her face every time they're together. It was a very light roast joke about the fact that he's almost 80 and she's younger than I am. It was not, by any stretch of the definition, a call to assassination, and they know that. I've been very vocal for many years speaking out against gun violence in particular, but I understand that the First Lady had a stressful experience over the weekend, and probably every weekend is pretty stressful in that house. And also, I agree that hateful and violent rhetoric is something we should...
That's enough. He's not apologizing. He told the joke again, and apparently the executives at ABC have no intention of firing him. He's good to go, as I thought he would be. Is it Cecile in Dallas, or Cecil?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Hey, Larry. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm founder, CEO, president of Inspiring Creative Entertainment, LLC, Dr. Tabi, studying psychology at Walden University. Thank you to all that have helped and stood for decent lives and growing, learning people to have the opportunity to continue to be safe. And when evil has taken them from us or us from them, that they or we are brought back. We have to stand by us. We have to fight before the finesse is too strong. 6 pillars of characteristics, I think we need to stand by those that we ask our children to do and be a great representation of who we are as the American people by any means necessary.
Well, Cecil, thank you very much for your call. Appreciate it. Whoopi Goldberg made an interesting request. Number 14.
You know, who always talks about he's a builder, he knows how to do this. Maybe he needs to build a new hotel there that has a big enough ballroom where they don't have to go to the Hilton, where the ballroom is under the building. This is what he says he does well. Forget destroying the White House. I'm saying maybe it's time someone built a hotel with a bigger ballroom, because the ballroom, you're never going to have enough seats for everybody. You're just not. It's always going to be more people show up, less people. You're never going to know. So maybe that's something when he stops being president.
Trump should build a hotel with a bigger ballroom because there was an assassination attempt at a ballroom that was large on Saturday. So therefore Trump should build a hotel with a bigger ball. What does that even mean? I guess it made sense to somebody. Now, right now, our Jewish friends feel forgotten. There's a Jewish woman named Esther I'd like to talk to you about. In her home in Israel, Esther is living through days and nights of fear. Sirens sounding, rockets screaming through the sky, long stretches spent in a bomb shelter. 84 years old, Esther is elderly, fragile, and alone. Imagine that. No help, no food deliveries, no medical care, no one knocking at the door. In a war zone. But because of friends like you, Esther is not alone. Through the fellowship, you are there, bringing food, meeting urgent needs, and reminding Jewish people, like Esther, you are not forgotten. In times of fear and uncertainty, your compassion brings hope and help. Esther asks that you hear these words. To those who give, you are doing a very great mitzvah, a good deed. You give from your hearts. May God protect you. Your prayers for God's protection and for the peace Jerusalem gave Jewish people, like Esther, give Esther hope. Stand with Israel in prayer by visiting supportifcj.org. That's supportifcj.org. Triple 8-971 SAGE 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Do you know that this shooting suspect appeared in a 2017 ABC News report discussing wheelchair tech? You can't make this up. Number 22.
College student Cole Allen developed a prototype for a wheelchair emergency brake.
The wheelchair brakes tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground. The idea with this is to prevent it from moving at all.
Recent Aging into the Future conference held by St. Barnabas Senior Services and the Eisner Foundation offered a test run on products that have the potential to enrich the lives of seniors. 14 different tech startups got to present to over 350 people in the hopes of getting their projects into some sort of senior health facilities.
It was the suspected shooter at the very beginning of that clip. Douglas is in Omaha. Douglas, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Yeah, Larry, I'd like to ask you a question, man. They're talking about all this stuff going on. What about when Karen Lovett made her comment about there's going to be bullets blazing, the one that works for Donald Trump, and she's a Republican.
There's going to be bullets blazing?
And this was on, they just pulled up about her. Yes, this was the same girl that gets up in the streets for Donald Trump all the time. She made a comment, and ain't nobody bringing that up.
Well, you just did. I have to hear the comment, though.
All right, well, she said that there were going to be bullets.
Okay,
bullets
Douglas. No matter what the Republicans have said, does it amount to referring to the President of the United States as a fascist, as a Nazi, as a Hitler, as a dictator, as a tyrant? Does it?
Well, let me ask you a question.
No, you didn't answer my question.
Yes, he does, man, because, hey, he can say what he wants to, but he wants to sue people. But when people get on him, it's a different story.
You think calling the President of the United States... Okay, Douglas. What is a fascist?
It don't matter, Larry. You know what I'm saying,
No.
brother.
Why don't you answer my question? What does it mean to call somebody a fascist? What is a fascist?
Well, he is a fascist, so you can say whatever you want.
You just said he's a fascist. Give me your definition of fascism. What is it?
He's a racist. I mean, his father was a racist, man. Go back to 1926, 27, 28. His father was a racist.
So your definition of a fascist is his father was a racist?
His father was a racist, and he's a racist, man. I don't care how you look at it. Go back to 1972 when his daddy didn't want to rent to black people. Man, get out of here. Bye.
Wait, Douglas. Don't run. Don't run, Douglas. I guess he ran. He's referring to a consent decree that the Trump people entered into with the FHA over allegations that they were not renting to blacks and Hispanics. Nobody admitted any guilt or any liability. It was a consent decree. It was in 1974, 75, as I recall. After that, go on YouTube and look at all the images of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson standing next to Donald Trump. Donald Trump supported Jackson's campaign for president to the extent that he gave him office space on Wall Street, and Jesse Jackson praised him. This was after the consent decree. Now, riddle me this, since you ran, sir. Riddle me this. If Donald Trump is a racist, why did civil rights icon Jesse Jackson stand with him and praise him after he entered into that consent decree? I'm just asking. Donald Trump put funding for historically black colleges on a 10-year basis. No one had ever done that before. Donald Trump pardoned Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion. Sylvester Stallone tried to get Obama to do it. Obama didn't do it. George W. Bush didn't do it. But Trump did. Trump signed the First Step Act that allowed people that had long sentences for nonviolent drug offenses to have their sentences reconsidered and reduced an average of 72 months. Of the 4,000 or 5,000 people that took advantage of it, most of them were black males. Donald Trump supports enterprise zones, lowering taxes and regulations in distressed areas to improve economic development. Donald Trump supports school choice. As I said before, 85% of black 8th graders, 13-year-old kids, are neither math nor reading proficient because of the lousy education they're getting K through 12. Guess who doesn't support school choice? Democrats. Guess who supports school choice? Urban black and brown parents who have to send their kids to poor, underperforming K through 12 public schools. Donald Trump is an adamant supporter of school choice. Donald Trump has secured the borders. What group is most harmed by unskilled illegal aliens? Black and brown workers with high school or less living in the inner city, because they have to compete against them for jobs, and the presence of illegal alien labor puts downward pressure to the tune of almost $2,000 a year on what would otherwise be the salaries of black and brown people living in the inner city. Does a racist do that? Does a racist support school choice? Does a racist fund historically black colleges? Does a racist sign a bill to allow prisoners, mostly black, to have their sentences reconsidered for nonviolent drug offenses? Does a racist support opportunity zones to allow inner city businesses to flourish without paying much in taxes? So Zoran Mamdani supports government grocery stores, giving the people that run the stores tax breaks in order to presumably make the products cheaper. Donald Trump supports enterprise zones, reducing taxes in distressed areas to make it easier for businesses to start or possibly even relocate there, but he gets no credit for it. Remember what Chris Matthews said about white people voting for racists? He said most white people would not vote for somebody if they thought he was a racist. And Chris Matthews is left-wing, long time had a show on MSNBC, former speaker for then House Speaker, former press secretary for then House Speaker Tip O'Neill. He said it. I didn't. Every spam call, every scam text, every sketchy email with your name, each one starts the same way. Somebody found you. Your phone number is sitting on data broker sites right now. So is your home address, your email, your age, even the names of your family members. All of it searchable and for sale, and scammers don't need to be hackers to get it. They just need Google in 5 minutes. Every scam starts with one thing, your personal info being available to the wrong person. So forget the spam filters and the call blockers. The real fix? Disappear. That's what Incogni does. They contact hundreds of data brokers and legally force them to remove your information. I'm using Incogni to get my names and info away from these data brokers. They can't spam you and they can't find you. Right now, get 60% off and with an exclusive deal at incogni.com/Larry. Go to incogni.com/Larry. That's incogni.com/Larry and take back your privacy. Incogni.com/Larry. That's LARRY. incogni.com/Larry. 888-971-SAGE. Do not leave town.
You know, just to set my bona fides on the table, one time I was doing I'm serious. I was substituting on a night watch, the middle of the night show on CBS, and I had to do a whole interview program on something called hip-hop. And I managed to carry it out the entire time without having any idea what I was talking about. I didn't know if it was music or what it was. I just said things like, so what is hip-hop? How's it work? And it was the most primitive thing in the world. So here I go, not having made much progress. Except I do understand President Trump as much as any of us do. He always shoots the moon. He does the thing in the contest of ideas and politics that the other people don't do. Here he is sitting with a hip-hop guy who apparently has got some sort of bizarre politics that, fine. I think it runs against the idea that he's a racist. It runs against the idea that Trump doesn't like minorities, that he's going after Herona, going after Maxine Waters, going after the usual suspects, if you will, in politics in a sort of a racial way. And here he is flipping it and confusing people. But mainly it's for white people. Because white people won't vote for a guy, most of them, if they think they're racist. So if you show you're not in some plaintive, cartoonish way, you get them off the hook. You know what I'm saying?
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. 20% of black males voted for Trump in 2024. I guess they all voted for a racist. Do you have the Jesse Jackson clip?
I now want to bring forth a friend who has, he is deceptive in that his social style is of such. One can miss his seriousness and his commitment, for his success is beyond argument. When we opened this Wall Street project and we talked about it, he gave us space at 40 Wall Street, which was to make a statement about our having a presence there. And beyond that, in terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And created for many people a comfort zone when I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88. And many others thought it was either laughable or something to avoid. He came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. And so aside from all of his style and his pizzazz, he's a serious person who's an effective builder of building for the builder of people. Last year he was a part of our workshop, of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so a year later, Donald Trump, for a few minutes, challenges and opportunities.
Oh my goodness! Jesse Jackson just praised racist. I'm Larry Elder. So let's get her teed up.
You want to play rock? Say hello to my little friend. What the hell's going on out here?
Ooh, that's a bingo. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. Going to be getting to your calls in just a few minutes, so don't leave town. EPA Chief Lee Zeldin got into a very interesting knockdown drag-out with a congresswoman over EPA and her assertion that he ought to be doing something about climate change. Bill Maher explains to a liberal guest who says his 9-year-old daughter has trans friends. This is why Kamala Harris lost the election. But first, Victoria Coates is the former Deputy National Security Advisor for the Middle East and North African Affairs under Trump 1.0. Number 28.
Well, you can't blame the Iranians for trying, Chris, and thanks for having me on again. They obviously have been using this playbook for the last 47 years where they get themselves into a really bad position and then try to exert non-existent leverage over successive American presidents and drag the situation out to the point where they get a president who's more amenable to their positions. And that's what they want to do with President Trump. They want to drag this out at least until the midterms, if not until 2028, and continue to tap him along. But what he's made extremely clear over the now, you're absolutely correct, 59 days that we've been through here, is he's not like other American presidents. And he did take decisive military action against them, and has wound up in a position where he has very strong economic leverage over them. And when I heard from him and from Secretary Rubio today, they're fine letting that leverage play out and letting the pressure build on the Iranians.
And again, she pointed out what they're trying to do is delay in hopes that the public opinion will turn so harsh against the president that he'll fold. They're underestimating him. Number 29.
Well, with the ceasefire in place, Chris, the clock stops ticking. So the president actually does have some time leeway here. And I strongly agree that this is a situation where we can continue to build our pressure on the Iranians. And what we're not talking about, and I think is the critical subtext here, is what is happening to Iran because of the blockade, because of the economic pressure that was built up in the first term, made worse over the course of the last 15 months of the second term. Iran almost ceases to exist as a modern nation state when they're forced to turn back on their internet after now 60 days that will mark tomorrow, with 99% of the country having no connectivity, printing 10 million rial notes. I mean, what is going to happen to them? So I think that is the situation where the president can go into negotiations rather than having something forced on him by the Congress.
She mentioned Secretary of State Marco Rubio, number 31.
Look, regime change is something that has to happen from within. But changing the regime, I know it looks like a wordplay, is something that pressure can bring about. In essence, one thing is to change the people in charge or their ideology, but another thing is to modify or modulate their behavior. At the end of the day, even though they are radicals, there are still people in the Iranian system that every single day, behind every decision they make, they weigh the costs and they weigh the benefits. And we have to make sure that the costs of all the nefarious things they are doing outweigh the benefits of what they are doing.
What about the new supreme leader? Is he alive? Number 32.
Do you believe that Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is alive?
Well, we have indications that he is. Obviously, they claim that he is. We don't have evidence that he's not. But I think the unresolved questions here are, does he have the same credibility as his father did? We know that for many, many years, at least I know that for many years, there's been internal debates in Iran about succession and whether it should be, hereditary based. Should it be that there are a lot that are resistant to that? Does he have the clerical credentials to actually act as supreme leader? Is he actually making the decisions, or is there somebody standing in his stead who's basically controlling 90% of it and is the one actually making decisions on his behalf? We don't know the answers to these questions.
What if there's no deal? Number 33.
If there is no deal, what comes next?
Well, again, that's the president's decision to make. I would start out by reminding everybody that the level of sanctions on Iran are extraordinary. The pressure on Iran is extraordinary, and I think more can be brought to bear. But I hope that in the aftermath of this conflict, the whole world's eyes have been opened to the threat Iran poses.
And this is the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, condemning Iran's blockage of the Strait, number 18.
It is absolutely clear, it's unambiguous, that as a matter of international law, this strait is not, despite Iran's foreign minister's claims, this strait is not Iran's to wield like its own moat and drawbridge. It is not Iran's hostage. It is not Iran's bargaining chip. It is not Iran's toll road. And that's what over 100 countries right outside these doors just testified in one of the most supported press conferences in recent years. 100 countries just said what I said. This is not for Iran to play with like some type of bargaining chip because of its illegal nuclear aspirations. Colleagues, less than 3 weeks ago, the world came together to counter this threat to maritime security. The Security Council adopted UN Security Council Resolution 2817 with a record-setting 136 co-sponsors, demanding that Iran cease its egregious attacks against its neighboring states. Regardless of what you feel about the ongoing conflict, it has chosen to shoot in all directions against its neighbors' civilian infrastructures. And the entire world condemned the obstruction of freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has done nothing but act in defiance of that resolution. 40 days and counting, they have laid sea mines. They have fired on civilian ships. We have worked to clear the sea mines and protect these ships. But it's used the strait also to launch thousands of missiles at Gulf capitals, their hospitals, their airports, their hotels, their neighborhoods. They have threatened to charge tolls, otherwise known as bribes, to allow ships to pass through the strait. And in true form, they have still tried to kill even more Americans than they have in the last 47 years. And this is why President Trump has directed firm action against Iran's threats in the maritime domain to safeguard the entire world's economic security and prosperity.
And this is Bill Maher having a liberal on comedian named David Cross. Do you know David Cross, Mr. McConnell? Is he funny? He has moments? Okay. He is telling Bill Maher he has a 9-year-old daughter who has trans friends. And the exchange was pretty interesting. Number 38.
You need to be checked. People need to be checked.
I think they'll be...
including your little girl.
Okay.
She needs to be checked. I don't know what...
with her black friends and trans friends and not even understanding. She doesn't know.
Wait, she has trans friends in 3rd grade?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, they know they're trans in 3rd grade.
I knew one of her friends. I knew when he was a girl.
How old?
I think just turned 9, and is just the coolest kid. I think
boy to girl, girl to boy,
girl to boy,
girl to boy. Okay.
And she has another very close friend who's not in this school, but who's boy to girl at 3.
But girl to boy, I knew somebody who said to me, actually more than one person who said to me, a woman said, I was what they called a tomboy. If I was alive now and acted the way I did then, that's what they would have done to me.
Well, nobody's doing this to her.
I don't know.
Literally, nobody is doing this to her.
How old?
She is, or he is, either 8 or, I think 9.
Okay, then somebody is doing something, because 8 or 9-year-olds can't
they're
do anything on their own.
No, they're buying them boys' clothes.
Well, then they're doing something. They're doing.
Sure, yes, you're right. They're buying them boys' clothes.
And telling them you're a boy now.
Okay, no, they're not telling them. They're just agreeing with. They're like going.
Well, they're
okay,
agreeing
honey.
with an 8-year-old because when has their judgment ever been off at 8?
You knew
Anyway,
you weren't gay, right?
That's.
It's not different.
It is different.
No, it isn't.
It's okay. Good luck with President Vance, because as I always say to my woke friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she lost. And this is a case of that.
Wait, what?
We voted for the same person.
Right.
You're just why she lost. Because America hears this, and they're going to go, Bill's right. 8-year-olds can't really make decisions on their own like this. That's what most people are going to say. And this is where the Democrats are, with David Cross living in Brooklyn, with Mandami Loving. And this is why, we're going to vote for J.D. Vance, and that's
I don't think
that's
it's
America in a nutshell.
I don't.
Doesn't mean I don't love you.
UN inspectors believe Iran has close to 1,000 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%, nearly ready to be used in a nuclear weapon.
970 pounds of 60% highly enriched uranium. What can you do with that?
So that is enough material for, if you enrich it just a little bit more, for 10 to 11 nuclear bombs. Iran has been lying about its nuclear weapons effort for over 20 years now. They have always claimed our program was 100% peaceful. We were never pursuing nuclear weapons. That's a lie. And then once the international inspectors got in and started finding some things out, the Iranians kept lying to them.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. That's from 60 Minutes. It's Sunday before last. And but you have a bunch of Democrats saying that Iran posed no imminent threat. Well, 60 Minutes would beg to differ. Brooke is in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Brooke, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you for calling. Do we have Brooke? Okay, we don't have Brooke. John is in Santa Monica. John, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Well, Larry, I think the King of England got probably 20 standing ovations, but I didn't see any paddles, white dresses, or people turning around, or no King's protest. So you had the King of England, who went through a very articulate explanation of his heritage, of all the royal family that he is from, right, going back 100 years. And the Democrats were just cheering this guy. And then there was nothing on Pennsylvania Avenue when he spoke in the front lawn of the White House. So please explain to me what is up with the No Kings. In Santa Monica, they had a half a mile long No Kings protest about 3 months ago.
Yeah, I was in that area and I saw it. So I guess some kings are better than others. That's the only thing I could think of. Thank you very much for the call. Ed is in Gardena. Ed, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Brother Elder, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I just want to make it. My pleasure, too. I just want to make a couple of points. I have a conspiracy theory. I think that the shooter going all the way across the country to Washington and doing what he did is to take the spotlight off the Southern Poverty Law Center revelations. And I wanted to tell you about a picture that I have on my phone, my old phone, of the president, Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, and James Brown all together.
Oh,
and be it a black and white picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed it to my son, and my son, all of that, and he said, "Oh, that's CG. It's got to be."
No, yeah, it is not. There's also a picture of him with Muhammad Ali as well. It's ridiculous. I've told you about this woman named Liz Croik, and she's an entertainment lawyer. And she followed Trump around for almost 10 years before he decided to run for office. She said, "It's my job to dig up dirt on people. And I'm looking for dirt on people. And if Donald Trump had been accused of being a rapist, a pedophile, a racist, a sexist, I would have known it. And I would have printed it. And it wasn't until after he ran for president that all of a sudden people began calling him a racist and a sexist and a this and a that." She said, "It didn't happen while I was covering him. And it was my job to cover him." Check it out, Liz Crokin, Crokin. Regarding the Southern Poverty Law Center, what he's talking about is the investigation, revelation, that the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is an organization designed to go after extremist groups, was paying extremist groups, including $300,000 during that Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville where a woman was killed. So think about the irony of that. Paying a protester $300,000 to appear there, don't quite know what he or she did. And then you have Joe Biden using that rally and what Trump said about it as the rationale for why he ran for president in 2020. And that's when he said the words that shocked the world. There are very fine people on both sides. So you have the Southern Poverty Law Center helping to fund that rally, putting at least one protester, we don't know how many, there. Who knows what that protester did. Here's what Jim Jordan said about it, number 9.
Yeah, robust debate is what we need to be focused on. We have this amazing thing, the First Amendment, and we want real and robust debate happening. But there are some of this language is just ridiculous that we see particularly from the left. And then when you couple it, and I keep coming back to this because I just was so outraged by this fact, when you come back to the fact that the Southern Poverty Law Center, viewed as the standard, cited by so many in the media as the standard on evaluating what groups are extremists, what are not, what groups aren't, and they're actually paying these informants to go inside these hate groups and foment more of it, that is just evil. That is just wrong. And again, I think the irony is, of course, we learn about that. They're indicted the very week that we have this third attack on President Trump.
And here's what President Trump said about the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, by the way, referred to Dr. Ben Carson as an extremist. Also, the Southern Poverty Law Center called Turning Point USA a hate group, called Focus on the Family a hate group. Are you kidding? They even criticized PragerU. Number 11.
It's a total scam run by the Democrats. It shows you that, like Charlottesville was all funded by the Southern Law. That was a Southern Law deal, too. And it was done to make me look bad, and it turned out to be a total fake. It basically was a rigged election. This was a part of the rigging of the election, and that's what you really should be doing. I mean, I hope one of your 60-minute episodes, which really hasn't changed very much from the last few years, I'm surprised, but one of those episodes should be on Southern law and the fact that they spent millions and millions of dollars on absolute far right and just bad groups. And then they'd use those groups and they'd say, these are Republican groups and we're coming to your rescue. And they're the ones that have funded it, and they're the ones that keep them going.
Chuck Schumer defended the Southern Poverty Law Center. Number 7.
On the Southern Poverty Law Center, I just want to say a quick word about the deeply disturbing charges the Justice Department has brought against the Southern Poverty Law Center. These charges should send a chill down the spine of every American who cares about free expression and the rule of law in the Justice Department. It should send a chill down the spine of every American who cares about civil liberties and the fight against violence extremism. Let's be clear what this case is all about, is really about. It has nothing to do with alleged wire fraud or with the Southern Poverty Law Center somehow working in coordination with the KKK. That's ridiculous on its face. It doesn't pass the
At some point, maybe the national media will care about the scheme that Chuck Schumer did, since the gentleman told me about what Trump did in the 70s, where he literally was trying to remove black people from a neighborhood in New York. I'm Larry Elder.
Well, we have said all along that we need every politician in the country, every leader in the country, every citizen in the country denouncing political violence across the board, regardless of where it's coming from.
Yeah.
I find this a welcome change in rhetoric, but, what happened last week? They brought a lawsuit against the Southern Poverty Law Center, whose whole purpose is to investigate violent right-wing extremism in the country, and now they're prosecuting them for having used undercover agents, which, of course, the FBI uses and the government uses all the time.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel coming to you from the Relief Factor studio. Don't forget your Relief Factor, 800-4RELIEF, 800 the number 4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Brent is in Los Angeles. Brent, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you for calling.
Hey, hello, Super Sage.
How are you?
Okay, great, thanks. I wanted to tell you there are two groups I know you're familiar with. The David Horowitz Freedom Center and the American Freedom Alliance are both on the Southern Predator Law Center list. And I wouldn't join any civil rights group or organization that wasn't on their list.
Wow. I didn't know the American Freedom Alliance was on that list. That's where John Eastman spoke about him being tried and ultimately losing his law license. It's a nice speech on Rumble. I urge anybody to check it out. David Horowitz Freedom Center, a hate group. Are you kidding me? Wow. Oh, Brooke is called back. Brooke, Elizabeth, New Jersey. You're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you for calling back.
Hi, can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay, I have more of a statement than a question.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is, I'm just not sure if you know what happened in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and Atlantic County.
I don't.
Okay, so what happened was when Trump bankrupted his third casino, all of Atlantic City went bankrupt. And then Eisman had to take over one of his casinos. And then because of the bankruptcy, the entire county, Atlantic County, went bankrupt. And then at that time, and I'm just going to mention that it was a Republican governor, it was Chris Christie at the time, and because of the bankruptcy laws, Trump didn't have to pay his taxes. And then I want to bring up the Trump shuttle, because I used to work for Eastern Airlines. And when Trump bought the Trump shuttle, and it only lasted for 3 years. So I know, like, during Trump's first term, everyone's thinking he did great for the country. But if past actions are the best predictor of the future, I just want people to be cautious. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me respond. Did he do anything illegal?
That depends upon what your legalities are.
Well, is it illegal? Is it illegal to put your company into bankruptcy?
Is it illegal what Martha Stewart did? Because a lot of people, a lot of males did what Martha Stewart did, and they didn't go to jail.
No. What Martha Stewart went to jail for was lying to a federal agent. She didn't go to jail for insider trading. She went to jail for lying to a federal agent.
And Trump never lied to a federal agent?
Why don't you tell me? Did he?
I pretty much believe so.
You pretty much believe so?
Pretty much believe so. And let me tell you about Jesse Jackson, because Trump gave office space to Jesse Jackson. Mm-hmm. So their relationship is kind of iffy.
Well, my point in bringing up the Jesse Jackson thing was to tell the caller, if Donald Trump is a racist because he entered into a consent decree where he agreed he would change his practices regarding renting to blacks and browns, why did Jesse Jackson later on partner with him to do this thing on Wall Street? It seems to me if Jesse Jackson is a civil rights leader, he's somebody who's very concerned about racism, I wouldn't come near Donald Trump with a 10-foot pole if I thought he was a racist.
So why did J.D. Vance partner with Donald Trump? Because he used to call him the modern-day Hitler.
J.D. Vance changed his mind. He admitted he changed his mind.
So a lot of people change their minds. That's the bottom line. It's okay to change your mind.
Okay to change your mind.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to bring up the point. That's all I wanted to say. I really don't have a question. Just wanted to make that.
No problem. Yeah, Donald Trump did put a couple of companies into bankruptcy. It's bankruptcy law. He took advantage of it. Is he not supposed to? Did he do something illegal? As far as I know, he didn't do anything illegal. When we come back, I want to play you an exchange that the EPA head, Lee Zeldin, had with a congresswoman from Connecticut. He tried to point out to her that the cases say the EPA does have the authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions, but it doesn't have a mandate to do so. And whatever it does should be based on science. And he tried to explain that to her, and it just went off the rails. Stick around for that. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those words weren't written for history books, they're written for you. But it's hard to pursue happiness when pain is part of everyday life. Relief Factor was created to help people address inflammation, one of the most common causes of ongoing aches and pains from aging, overexertion, and just daily living. It's a 100% drug-free, research-based formula that works through multiple metabolic pathways to support comfort and mobility. No prescription, no masking symptoms, just real relief so you can keep moving forward. I've told you about my golfing buddy Tom, scratch golfer, out on the course probably as we speak. Why? He said Relief Factor relieves the pain in his shoulder and his lower back. As America celebrates 250 years of independence, give yourself the chance to reclaim yours. Relief Factor, because freedom just feels better without pain. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF. Triple 8-971 SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, Salem News Channel. Now, before I play this clip for you, when Lee Zeldin was undergoing his confirmation hearings to be the head of the EPA, he was asked whether or not the EPA was required to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. And he said no. There's a website called earth.org, which is a website, left wing. They're really, really angry at Trump because of the things he said about climate change. Trump has called it a hoax. So it's an article about Lee Zeldin's hearing in this earth.org. And it said that Lee Zeldin was questioned about whether or not the EPA was mandated to address greenhouse gases, which is what the climate change issue is all about. He said, well, the court cases give us the power to do it, but we're not mandated to do it. We do it based on policy, based on science. And here's what the earth.org said about Lee Zeldin. Quote, during the hearing, Zeldin acknowledged the reality of climate change, contrasting with previous EPA leaders under the Trump administration and Trump himself, a climate denier who has repeatedly dismissed climate change as a hoax. I repeat, Zeldin acknowledged the reality of climate change. So, with that in mind, this is Connecticut Democrat member of the House, Rosa Louisa DeLauro, in this exchange between her and Lee Zeldin, when he tried to tell her, I don't have an obligation to address greenhouse gas emissions. The cases say that I have the power, but only I can do so if I feel that they advance the needs and economic needs of the country based on science. And she apparently was unaware of the cases he cited. Number 21.
The budget proposal reads like a climate change denier's manifesto. When climate change is flooding our streets, poisoning our air, driving up health care and disaster costs, how can the EPA justify abandoning that duty to protect Americans to appease polluters under the false flag of economic growth?
Following the law, Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, where does it say anything about fighting global climate change? Loper-Bright, Supreme Court case, you familiar with it?
No, I maybe others are. I'm not, but let me ask.
But that's really important. As a member of Congress, Loper-Bright says that we, as an agency, don't have the authority to get creative. If Section 202 of the Clean Air Act...
No, but you don't have, excuse me, you do not have the right to say climate change does not exist, that it's a hoax, and that's where this administration is coming from.
I understand you're upset that you don't know what Loper-Bright is. Do you know what the major policies doctrine is?
I'm upset because...
You know what the major policies doctrine is?
You know what, let me just
You're a member of Congress. You should know.
Well, you have moved from someone who defended the environment to all of a sudden...
Being very defensive about not knowing the two biggest landmark Supreme Court cases of the last year with regards to your question.
You are very defensive about changing your policy and your positions with regard to the environment.
Okay.
Now, you just tell
me. You want me to tell you what the two biggest Supreme Court cases are of the last few years?
This is what I want you
Michigan
to tell
versus EPA.
Whoa.
West Virginia versus EPA.
You know, you're here because you need money from us. So halt for the second. And wait for the questions and answer the question.
Well, I answered your question,
no, you
and you didn't like my answer because you don't know what Loper-Bright is, because you don't know what the major policies doctrine is, because you're asking me about Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, and you don't read it. You don't know what it says.
Listen, and what you want to do is to deny.
No, I actually read the law. I do my homework.
Really?
You're just somebody who likes to have the microphone on. You know what I have to do? I read the law.
You know,
I read the
Chairman, I
Supreme
don't have
Court
to listen
cases.
to this, and I would say
No,
this,
what you should do for your constituents is actually read statutes.
Budget is at real risk.
Read
Let
your
me tell
Supreme
you,
Court.
This is the Appropriations Committee.
Oh,
you come here.
You care about
and
science?
tell us-
Now you're threatening to defund it?
Oh my God! No, you don't fund
Because
science.
you don't know what Loper Bright is.
climate
Because you don't know what the major policies
You are
doctrine is. Your
climate
message
deniers.
to our folks at the EPA is that you want to
I don't
defund
have
us.
to listen to this BS.
BS. You think I made up these cases?
Yeah, I think you have made up a whole
I made
lot of
I
BS.
made up Loper Bright. I made up West Virginia versus EPA. I made up Michigan versus EPA.
Woe is right. What are you doing? Why
Wait,
are you helping polluters?
We're not going to get any very far by talking on top of each other so that no one can hear. If you ask a question, you have to give the witness an
I
opportunity
do not have
to
to
respond.
have the witness attack me. Not.
Well, that was spirited, wasn't it? This is a New York bodega owner. He told ABC a year ago that he fears for his safety. Night before last, he was killed by a shoplifter. Number 40.
Himself spoke with Eyewitness News a year ago, saying he worried about violence against bodega workers he'd seen on social media.
People got shot, killed. Sometimes you got robbed, and the police never responds quick.
Tonight, the organization is wondering if the person who shot Abdul Salah was someone who shouldn't have been on the street.
Tim Walz was answering a question about fraud by attacking Trump. Number 4.
It happens in other states. We were going back to many of these people were prosecuted in 2021. He used it as an excuse because it was a perfect thing to do to say there was fraud. Imagine that. Coming from this guy, he would know fraud where it was at.
Yeah.
So used it to...
He's like Sigmund Fraud.
Yeah.
And then he denied that the fraud that was exposed was the reason why he decided not to run. That wasn't why he decided not to run. Number 5.
Push back.
Is the fallout from that situation, though, why you decided that you would not run for re-election?
No, and I think for me, look, 2 terms is probably enough. I think we get enough of people making careers out of this. Just candidly, Minnesota had a pretty tough year. In June of last year, we finished a legislative session. We're evenly divided, 67-67 in the House, 35-34 in the Senate. But the most extraordinary politician and person I ever worked with was Melissa Hortman, who was gunned down in June of last year, and she and I were partners in doing this work or whatever, and then the Annunciation shooting, and I think it just kind of got to the point. The fraud stuff on that, Republicans run it up, they put money in it. It was most important for me that we hold the seat with a progressive Democrat.
2 terms is enough. And tell that to Nancy Pelosi. Hey, parents and grandparents, think about every science documentary, every textbook, every streaming special your kids have ever watched. They all tell the same story. We're here by accident. The universe is random. Life is a fluke. That's the only narrative that gets airtime. But what if the actual science tells a different story? I'm proud to introduce The Story of Everything, the kind of film that Hollywood wouldn't greenlight and the mainstream would rather you not see. It explores the staggering math of intelligent design. When you look at the precise laws of physics required for life to exist, the probability of accident vanishes. The evidence doesn't point to chaos, it points to a designer. The Story of Everything features Dr. Stephen Meyer from the Discovery Institute and challenges the one-sided story with hard science and undeniable logic. Every parent and grandparent has a responsibility to make sure the next generation hears more than just the version that popular culture has chosen for them. The math is there, the science is clear, and The Story of Everything is finally giving that science a platform. Over 600 theaters nationwide for 1 week only, April 30th through May 6th. Go to thestoryofeverything.film and get tickets. Join us April 30th for something that was meant to be seen in theaters. Thestoryofeverything.film.
And let me play among the stars. Birdie, people are searching for the kind of love that we possess.
I'll say the quiet part out loud. We have a problem with the Somali community in Minnesota and this idea of assimilating into American culture. Now, this is the problem. They represent less than 2% of the Minnesota population, but 90% of the fraud that we have documented so far. This is an issue what the Democrat Party's done. They've told the Somali refugees that you can come here, take advantage of the benefits here, the generosity of our country, but you don't have to be a part of American culture. Well, that's wrong. Look at this as a football analogy. We've been winning Super Bowls for 250 years. We have one jersey. It's red, white, and blue. We have one rule book for this game called the U.S. Constitution. You adopt our culture, our systems, our language. We're not adopting to yours.
Yeah.
That's been the norm for 250 years of this country, and we need to make sure that resonates. And I'll put a moratorium on refugee settlement here for the next 10 years so we can assimilate the refugees that we have here to American culture.
Yeah.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are Salem News Channel. That was Kendall Qualls. He is a Republican candidate for governor of Minnesota. Steve is in Cyprus. Steve, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Hi, Larry. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Fantastic. I know you enjoy comedians much as I do, and one of my favorite comedians is Dave Chappelle. On one of his shows, he had a character called Clayton Bigsby, and he was supposedly what the narrator commentator said was the blackface of white supremacy. And I'm just wondering if possibly Dave Chappelle can sue that author of the Times that wrote that piece and didn't attribute that quote to Dave Chappelle. And I'm wondering, you as a lawyer, if you could handle that lawsuit for him.
Lawsuit to follow. Her name is Erica D. Smith, and she referred to me during the campaign as the black face of white supremacy. And apparently that skit that you mentioned, Dave Chappelle, he said it in that skit. Maybe there was just two brilliant comedic geniuses thinking alike. Not sure she stole it. By the way, she no longer works for the LA Times. She now works for Bloomberg. So I'm surprised they haven't given her a show on MSNBC yet. Maybe she should get a better agent. The United Nations has appointed Iran as vice president of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Conference. I am not making that up. Iran has been appointed by the United Nations as vice president of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Conference because, of course, they're engaged in nuclear non-proliferation. Well, we've done enough damage today. You know the number, 888-971-7243. Feel free to leave a number, leave a message. Make sure it's under 60 seconds, and please, no profanity. I will see you tomorrow. God bless.
What can I say? Mamba out. The mic has been dropped. All across America.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
The Larry Elder Show.
Chrisman of For Him has spent 40-plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.